All right, I'd like to call the regular Airport Advisory Committee meeting of April 17th, 2025 to order at 6 p.m. Will the Secretary please take roll?
Aaron McCarty,
Present?
Charles Morris, absent. Kevin McCabe,
Present.
Austin Bolowa,
Present.
Michael Lucas.
Present. All right. Mr. Bolowa, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, does the committee have any adjustments to tonight's meeting? Hearing no changes, the agenda will stand as presented. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Seconded out. Can I second? Is it? I can second. Okay. Seconded. If there are no objections, the agenda is approved as presented. Does the committee have any adjustments to the January 16th meeting minutes as presented? Hearing no changes to the minutes will stand as presented. I need a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Okay, and seconded. I second. If there are no objections, the meeting minutes are approved as presented. Let's see, Mr. Shaw, the reports.
Absolutely. Am I blinking? One sec. All right, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So, is that working now? You don't think it's working? Yeah.
These even on? Okay.
Does that work? We'll let Ashley see. Ah, there we go.
There we go.
All right. We'll share. So we're going to talk about some interesting new business tonight. But one of the things I'll update you on is that the roads and airport staff have been really active out around the fence this spring with no snow and having the cold temperatures. That allowed us to get equipment on both sides of the fence and do a bunch of brushing. So we went in there with the hydro axe and mowed down things and then cut down trees and put them through the chipper. So the perimeter fencing is looking really good for access. We do have areas that have fallen over. We're still waiting to replace more than 1,000 feet of fencing that is frost jacked out of the ground and fallen over. That's an eligible repair through the FAA, and we're waiting for them to fix their grant process since Trump's taken office, and so we haven't been able to let that contract go out officially. We have a low bid, but we're waiting for the FAA to finish their grant documents so that we can officially use their money to fix the fence. So that's the only hang up there, but we have really good access now, and we use the opportunity of no snow to get in there and do long overdue clearing. Yeah, that's about it for the staff reports.
Okay, thank you very much. Any public comments? No? All right. There is no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. The airport budget. Mr. Shaw, would you like to?
Yes, thank you. So in your packet is an excerpt from the budget document that we're going through right now with the council. See, Councilmember Cottle is here. So we have been meeting this week. So we had a regular April council meeting on Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday have been departmental presentations on their budgets, and that allows the council members to ask questions, and they'll be formulating any budget amendments they want to make for next week. We didn't finish the whole budget presentation last night, so they've added another meeting on Monday, and that's when we'll get to the airport. So we haven't officially talked about it, but with the council yet, so I wanted to bring it in front of you as well so you could see it. There's a few additions, and then there's some things that haven't been added that I can hear Mr. Grogan already saying. There's no airport manager in this budget request, and there's no increase in fees in this budget request. But what we are asking for, yeah, hiss and boo, what we are asking for is a half-time position split between airports and roads. So 50% roads, 50% airport. And what that mirrors is the relationship that the airport already has with one of the roads tech 2s, which is technically 60%. But this would allow a roads tech 1 to be out there being billed directly to it, and a roads tech 2. And working with the supervisor, Keith Jones, we felt this was important to talk about at this budget cycle because of the Apron E expansion that we already have, and the upcoming projects that are right around the pike, and then, you know, the higher level of response that we're holding ourselves to. So we want to make sure that we, through our staff and contractor support, we're providing the top level of winter and summer maintenance. We've been making, you know, I think impressive upgrades, both with our crack sealing in the summer and fog sealing and repainting, and then staying on top of plowing during the winter. We've done some other things like adding new wayfinding signs so visitors can figure out which aisle they're on. We've added some more transient signs so visitors feel like they can navigate the airport. And so the, in general, the budget is an increase of, well, it's kind of funny because it looks like the budget actually went down, but that's because there have been, the finance director has made some general changes about like where insurance lives. Insurance had been subdivided among the different divisions or departments in a percentage that didn't make much sense. And so she's elected to pull that out of everyone's budget and stick it in a citywide insurance budget fund and have it in one place so that it's easier to manage. And so that has kind of a cooling effect on some of the budgets where insurance, like airport insurance, is pretty expensive. We have a lot of infrastructure out there, so it's a pretty impactful line item in our budget, in our insurance coverage. If I go to, I think it's page 13 of the packet, 15 of 16. The way you can read these documents is 13 has information that's also broken down a little differently on 14. And so you can say, okay, well, there was about a third of the way down on the page on 13 is a line item called computer software and maintenance, and that shows a 12.2% increase. And if we flip to 14, we see computer software maintenance, and it's broken down into different annual payments. And what we've done is we've taken the asset management program that we use, it's called MaintainX, and we've stuck those license costs in each department that uses them. So the airport has one seat of MaintainX, and it's now against the airport versus first years it was as a capital fund all by itself, much like the opposite of what just happened with insurance. Under general supplies, we added some money to add the wayfinding signs that we've started. So we'll be able to finish that off if that stays in the budget. And then we added a line item for more D1 so that we can resurface the stole. And we've been taking bites out of resurfacing the stole each year and blading the gravel around and getting it redefined. And so this is another improvement that we've been excited to do by adding those funds. The other noteworthy increase is, well, that's really about it. Everything else has pretty much stayed the same operationally. So let me just look really quick. One of the things that the packet does is it also has some metrics on it. We don't have in other divisions of Public Works, we have a lot more activity within the work orders. So what tends to happen is there'll be a project like maybe the Stoll regrading. The manager will open a work order and says we're gonna work on the Stoll, and then they'll keep track of all of those hours and the materials and stuff, so we know what that activity cost. But we don't have a huge number of work orders, so it hasn't been. It's not in the department statistics because it looked like we have like 14 work orders or something like that, because we're still kind of rolling into the operational use of that. So that's basically what I wanted to draw your attention. Does anyone have any questions about what's in the document if you did any pre-reading?
So if I heard you right at the beginning, you said that you were adding another roads tech person, basically somebody to operate equipment that you're splitting between the airport, and so you'll have
Yes.
basically an extra guy when it's needed.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, good. Good deal.
There's on page 9, there's previous year's accomplishments. So the previous year is right now basically, because we're moving into the fiscal year. So I talked about the brush cutting. We talked about being successful with snow removal. It was a much easier year. We got a break, thankfully. We didn't have the third record snow year in a row. Talked about, we did a bunch of ditching along Taxiway B. So they were really excited to be able to do that. Did a bunch of painting. I don't know if you've noticed, but there were some markings on the ground where the stencils are really small. They've gone back and made them much bigger, so they're 4 times bigger than they were. And I think they really looked sharp. And then completed Taxiway, or Apron E Phase 2, added 27 new tie downs. And then we're still really proud of excavating Hamburger Hill, getting 60,000 more cubic yards to the end of the runway. And that's been really well received by all of the federal support. So we've had Sullivan and Murkowski come out and look at it, and they're just blown away at what we've been able to do. And I've really reiterated how fortunate we are that we have the material on our facility to move for the runway extension, because that's normally not the case. So we've just been receiving a lot of really good support and feedback that this is a really straightforward, no-brainer thing to do, and keep going, keep going.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments from? All right, moving on to the Taxiway Kilo.
So I handed out a handout to you so we weren't having to use our imagination. So you have a 11 by 17 drawing. If anyone in the audience doesn't, they're in the back on the table over there. So, we are working on the master plan, and we're moving so quick. We're building things that are on the master plan that's going to be approved here soon. But we're working with the FAA, so they're not surprised. When we started out with this runway extension plan, the FAA said, hey guys, we're not a build it and they will come kind of group. We said, we understand. We're going to push you to your extreme comfort levels on, forecasting, but we know this is going to work, and so we're not going to wait. So we said we need to get ahead of the environmental, because to extend a runway is extremely complicated through the environmental review process. But what's less complicated is to add more tie-down space, more hangar space, more taxiway space. And that helps us bring more users in, bigger planes, and so that helps the forecast too. So they're mutually cohesive. So Taxiway Kilo is building tie-down space and hangar space on the east side of the airport. That is in a fill section that was built 10 years ago when Aviation Avenue was constructed, and so it's ready to go. It's been settling, it's in great shape, and so we're excited to be offering that up to the FAA for grant support. Our initial expectation was that we'd have to break it into chunks. We know that in past years there's usually $4 to $5 million that's up for grabs when DOT hasn't quite made as much progress on that year's project as they thought they would. And if we come in with the project ready to go and we've got the permits, FAA says, sure, here you go. Well, through our federal delegation and the state support, we were planning the same thing. We went to FAA and said, could you help us with phase one? And they heard from the bigwigs and they said, let's just do this all at once. And so they said, actually, come back with the whole plan. And we said, the whole plan? And they said, yeah, we could get you 13.5 million if you can supply the owner's match, which is about a little over 4, because they won't pay for some stuff. So let's just do this. And so we said, okay. And so that's in the budget proposal to the council that we'll look at on Monday through the CIP. And what you have in front of you is a drawing that shows the federal portion of it. So what you see along the bottom, that little gray strip, that's the constructed road access that takes you off of Aviation on the right and drives you up onto the plateau of fill that we have and gets you to those new lease lots. Then you see the big gray section with the GB in it. That is the federal portion of the approaches and aprons that they're willing to pay for. And you see that it connects to the end of runway 22, and that's how these planes would enter this facility. What we will pay for is the white strip between the road and the edge of the apron. And so we're gonna need to make sure that's got a good sub base. We're probably gonna just make it gravel so that it's easy to develop for the new hangars. And then they are they're willing to pay for water and electricity, but we pay for the sewer. So we're gonna put a local sewer connection out here. We're gonna have a septic and a leach field and permit it like we have on some other disconnected sewer systems within the city. And that's how we're gonna serve this area with sewer. And we're gonna bring our own water, we're gonna install our own sewer, we're gonna have gas and electric come up here and make that available for the lease lots. And then we'll put those out for competitive application and look for commercial partners that meet the vision of expansion at the airport. And there's gonna probably be about 7 lots that are roughly 200 feet wide and 218 feet deep, I think. And what that allows for is there'll be some parking availability on the ramp, and then a nice sized hangar. And we've discussed in the past, this is going to have a design standard to it so that it's very cohesive looking. This is the premier Wasilla commercial hangar site, so it's going to have, a design architectural sense to it, so that everyone that's housed over here has that that professional feel, and really brings us into that that next phase or next level of autonomy at our at our airport. Yeah. Yeah, so total this is about $17 million project.
Okay.
And what we're gonna do is, there's actually more fill over here than we need. So we're gonna take some of this fill and transport it over to the end of the runway again, and it just helps us in the next phase of the runway extension. Yep, and then, like I said, the permitting for this is pretty easy. We got categorical, CADXs, what are they called? Categorical exclusions, because it's been within the permitted zone. We already had the permit to put the material down, so this has been really easy, but it really checks a bunch of boxes for more users, more flights, larger planes. So, any questions about the project?
Is there plans to run data or internet up to that area as well?
Yeah,
I know
we've been going back and forth because Starlink is so inexpensive and MTA is so expensive. What I think the plan is right now is, it is always wise when electrical is going in to pay for more conduit. And so I think that's probably what we'll do at first is ask MEA to put another conduit in that could be used for data, and then we'll see if there's a need for that for the clients that get.
I know that
lots.
we use Starlink on the airport for our operations, and it does have its limits.
And I know that their billings
Normally-
have changed. We use it at the sewer treatment plant,
Right.
and we're in a new category now, and we stream cameras to it, and that's getting expensive. So we're looking at
So there are limits. It does have its times where sometimes it's great. Most of the time it's great.
Yeah.
sometimes it's really not. So, especially for commercial operations, reliability. So maybe just thinking about ensuring that there's some kind of backup plan or ability to add that later for a reliable connection for commercial operations.
Yep, we agree. And we, this will have a gate, so we have to run some sort of data connection to the gate too, for the key fobs and that sort of thing. So, yeah, we're trying to be mindful about the upfront cost, but then, you know, the value over time of having that infrastructure from the beginning and not retrofitting.
Yeah.
Thanks. So have you, Eric, have you talked to MTA? I've talked to them several times, and if you got an open trench and you're putting electrical in, I'm almost certain that they will come out and put in their stuff
Yeah,
for next to nothing, just
yeah,
because they say it doesn't. Same thing we think is it doesn't make sense to put in a
yeah. So
trench without.
we have reached out to them, and they did a build out, you know, so they're like, we'll supply all of it, and that's where they were like, you're gonna pay for that. And what we haven't said is, well, we just want the conduit, we'll let the customers that need it kind of fend for that later. So we'll circle back with them and make sure we get it all in at the right time.
Okay, I can help if you need help with that.
Appreciate that.
I have some
Yeah.
friends there. Second question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, is are we struggling with NEPA permits for any of this?
Struggling with permits?
Yeah, with NEPA permits or environmental stuff?
No, I wouldn't say struggling. Our HDL is very competent on the path. We know where we have to go. What'll be interesting is there's a sound study that has to be done, and so I don't know of any hold up from the FAA. They definitely have. They were already pretty helpful. They're even more helpful now with the last few months, and so. At this moment, things seem to be going well. There are still the same boxes to check for, you know, public involvement. We've had all of the airport master planning meetings, the surveys that are going to go out, and we're still working on. We have to submit the plan, right? We say this is how we're going to do it, and we know it'll meet your needs, and then they review that. So they haven't come back with comments yet. So if those comments are overly burdensome, then we'll definitely call for help.
Okay, so one of the things that maybe you should make sure that you're aware of is the president's executive order on unlocking Alaska. There's some very specific language in there that applies to Wasilla Airport.
Okay.
And it's very directive for the Corps of Engineers and for others, and basically says you shall not hold up any major projects.
Okay.
And I know that his EO, people look at it and say, oh, that's talking about the natural gas pipeline, but it's really not. It's talking about projects just like this. So,
How
and
exciting.
I can email you the particular
Yeah,
paragraphs.
please do.
I've used them several times in letters for grants and specific to the NEPA and processes. So it's something you might lean on if you need to.
That would be amazing, because I could use it for the sewer treatment plant too. Yeah, thank you for letting us know about that.
Very good. Any further questions or comments on Taxiway Kilo? All right. Moving on to the next item, summer operations.
Yes, thank you. So we talked about possibly regrading the Stoll. Hopefully that happens. We did a lot of brushing last year. We probably have a little bit more to do off the low side closer to the creek, so you'll see some of that. We are, because of the great support from the FAA, we're also, you know, reminded that we have to uphold the FAA's aviation use. So we will be actively out there making sure that leaseholders are following the rules and not inadvertently or advertently dragging us into problems with the FAA on non-aviation use. So we ask kindly that if there are activities that aren't aviation related that you know the FAA is going to frown upon, that we curtail those. But they also expect us to have some records of checking in on folks, so we'll be around and trying to navigate that as graciously as we possibly can, but not risk all of these great things that are happening. So I just wanted to make that aware. We did send out a letter last fall saying, get ready. We've just been swamped with all of this stuff. So the knocking on doors and saying hi didn't get going as early as we wanted it to. There are, I'm trying to think other work things that are going to be happening out there. The Compass Rose is not in magnetic alignment anymore, and it doesn't meet the new standard. So we have a contract to finish out. The rain stopped us last year. We have to finish out that contract to black it out and paint the new standard Compass Rose with the right heading and declination and stuff. So you'll see that here in like next month. We have to do it before June, which isn't going to be a problem, but you'll see that work out there. So there'll be a NOTAM, you'll see some cones and stuff. So if there's any, it shouldn't affect the fuel station, but if there's any concerns about accessibility with that Compass Rose and blocking traffic, just let us know. There's going to be more surveys for cultural resources up behind Hamburger Hill. So that's going to be happening this year so that we can get ahead on that permitting as we continue to go into the unsurveyed areas for more material and take it down to the waste area for the expansion. It's not really summer update, but we are making more progress with the purchases of the properties at the end of the runway. So the council approved the purchases of 3 properties owned by the Gardners, Mr. and Mrs. Gardner. They're really the only house that's in the RSA, and so we'll be buying their home and the 2 other parcels that they own. They are granted the rest of the summer to remain on the site and have time to find a new place to live. That's part of the agreement that is overseen by the FAA circular that revolves around airports buying people's homes for expansion. And so we're very happy that we could finalize that agreement so that they're not wondering and feeling like they're in limbo. And then we're in negotiations with several other property owners to agree upon the purchase prices. We will be expending all of the state money that we received for those purchases. We got a $5 million grant with the support of Mr. McCabe and Mr. Wilson, and we're very thankful for that. We'll almost be done spending that. We've asked the council to appropriate more money, and they have, so we have the fund balance to keep going and getting more properties. I'll be providing the council with an update on what we've purchased and what's next so that they have clear vision on where we're going. And then, I think with the way that it's been heading, I think we will probably be able to say that we've purchased everything we need by the end of the summer, I'm hopeful. Or at least negotiated it where we now just work through the legislative process to finish it. So we've been really fortunate that we've been able to find willing partners and figure out how to make it happen. And that secures that when it's done, it will secure what we need for the 6,000-foot runway.
Wow.
And then we'll be going back to FAA and saying, hey, look, Taxiway Kilo's ready to go. Look, there's some planes on it. Now we're ready for our 5,100-foot expansion and get that permitting going. And so, we're on track for a few more years and starting to break ground for the 5,100-foot extension.
Well done.
We're trying.
It's a lot, but that's big steps.
Yeah. We appreciate the board's support. You guys have helped immensely.
Questions or comments on summer operations? Okay. Public comment? No? All right. Any other comments from the committee? Any new business or anything anybody like to add or say? No? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to update the commission. Mayor Ledford and I went back to headquarters in DC the first part of March because we had put in a congressional budget request for $3 million to extend the runway. The FAA Reauthorization Act that happened, we worked very closely with Sullivan's office to get language in there that would allow the runway extension, the AIP funds to be eligible based on economic development and also the proximity to another airport. So initially, we were limited because we were closer than 50 miles from Ted Stevens, but when the FAA Reauthorization Act came out, it's that if you're 28 miles or farther, which helped us. And then it also freed up AIP funds to be used for runway expansion. And the eligibility was economic development, which was great. The mood when we went back to Washington this time was something we've never experienced. First of all, it was the first week they'd all been in person. And so they were kind of looking at each other like, are you going to talk or am I going to talk? There were 6 in the room and 6 virtual that were from Anchorage. And they want to do whatever they can do to expand these resources. And so we showed them our projected plan. They said you have demand, you guys have population, you have all the indicators that show that this would only help your city. So we were very encouraged by that. And then when they followed up with a call, and then we've since had some of our delegation come out, it just demonstrates continually how focused we are on bringing the amenities that are going to be sized to the users. So we are handing out these shovels now because we say we're shovel ready. And we are one of the few airports in the state that don't have some of the challenges like PFAS and permitting. So our Eric's team's really taken the lead on building that relationship and the rewards, and we're starting to see some great progress. So, but like I said, I just wanted you to know that the mood back there was so, I can't even explain it other than they actually were excited about what do you need to do to turn that dirt. It was just awesome. So I think we have a short window here to get a lot done, and so there's no reason to stall, but we have to be realistic that permitting has always been an issue, whether you're trying to build an airport or open a mine or build a road. So anyway, those are just from the funding side. That's what we learned when we went back to DC.
All right, thank you.
I do have a comment.
Really good.
Yeah.
Mr. Shaw?
I just want to give one more update. So, meeting-wise for the budget, so like I said, Monday there'll be a meeting to talk about the rest of the divisions. The airport will be in it, CIPs. And then there is, what day of the week is it? It's the 17th. So we have the 28th regular council meeting. And then after that is the next day, Tuesday, is another meeting about the budget. And then it can go into multiple meetings after that. They're on the schedule in case they need it because it covers advertising. So anyway, if you're interested in coming and speaking to any part of the budget, that's what the meeting agendas are about.
All right, thank you.
One more thing.
I have something to
Okay, we'll go ahead first.
So this summer, I understand that Merrill Field is going to be doing work on their long runway. And the twin engine training planes won't be able to take off from that from the short runway. And so they may be visiting Wasilla more. So we might have a little more traffic.
Yeah, it's good to know.
So I'm curious how big the waiting list for tie downs is. I like what I see in here with the 100 going to 198, 165, and it looks like they're all filled. So do we still have a waiting list?
We do, yeah. Ashley, is it still about 100?
So I don't know about the tie downs,
Yeah.
but the lease lots are about 75.
Yeah.
75 for lease lots?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, so we are still way behind the need with what we have available.
So what is that? I mean, have you figured out what that means as far as money? So if you had 75 lease lots right now, how much revenue would that bring in to the city of Wasilla? If your dreams were just right plopped in your lap,
Yeah.
how much money would that bring in?
Well, so an average lease lot is about $1,200 a year. So 75 times 1,200, I can do that. It's 90,000. But remember that I don't know if we have space for that many ever, even with our build out. But what it really means is that the borough isn't collecting that kind of property tax, because that's where the money's made, is property taxes, because they rent for $4,000 a month. You know, they rent for 40x what our lease rate is. So
All right. Any further comments or questions? You
I
good?
was gonna. Crystal asked me about the financial plan as part of the airport master plan. Northern Economics is still digesting the numbers that our finance director got him. So we should be seeing some more information here really soon.
With regard to the increase in rates? Is that?
No, it's about, well, how to describe this? It is about what the master plan would need, if we built out the master plan, what it would need to be solvent, basically, so you know, because the last number I saw with the total completed 20-year master plan, it's like a $270 million build. And so then the FAA is like, well, you know, what's the expected O&M, like what, you know,
Yeah.
what does it look like? And so that's what they're working on, is the forecast on what it might take to maintain something that large.
Is there any further discussion on raising the lease rates or the tie down rates or anything
Not
as far as
since-
in the master plan or any?
No. Not since you passed your resolution. I've been trying to be strategic about when to bring it in, and I kept saying we'll wait till Title 16 is done, and Title 16 may be done soon. That's one of the things that's going in front of the council too, is to finalize that. So that could shake loose here soon.
Okay. All right.
Has everybody else in the valley though has raised their rates, right?
Yes, at Palmer's up to 10 cents a square foot as well.
And we're still, what,
Six, yeah.
Willow's up, Big Lake's up, everybody's up except us.
And then once it's implemented, there'll still be a delay as well as
Right.
because you can't raise it until the
Right.
renewal period. So,
Well, yeah, that's right. You're right. It's in the renewal period too. You're right.
so there'll be a significant delay from when it's implemented to
Yeah.
when we'll actually see that in
Yeah.
the budget.
Yes. Technically, since we're on the topic, in talking with our legal, if we missed a renewal period, so if you've had a lease for 10 years and we could have renewed it for every 5 years, we didn't
Oh, yeah.
lose them, so that could be part of the process. Is the first, anyone that had a renewal that never had a change, maybe this is when that kicks in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any further questions or comments from the committee? All right. Then, hearing no other business, this meeting is adjourned.